Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. First things first, right? I will use an Ukrainian media outlet to inform you about the general situation on the front, according to the Ukrainian side. So they usually talk about a few achievements here and there, some Russian losses, and then they get into the whole front, telling you each direction who did what in general terms. I consider it a good informative little summary of what's going on the front coming from the Ukrainian side. So this article comes from Ukrinform and it's from today, the 22nd of January 2023. The title is War Update. Ukrainian Air Forces launch 17 strikes on enemy positions. Ukrainian Air Forces launched 14 strikes on Russian personnel clusters and 3 strikes on enemy air defense missile systems positions in the past 24 hours. The relevant statement was made by General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, and I'm quoting, "Over the past day, the enemy has launched 1 missile strike and 27 air strikes and opened fire with multiple launch rocket systems 55 times. The threat of attacks with ground and air-launched missiles and suicide drones is persisting all over Ukraine," end quote, the report states. According to the General Staff, Russian troops were conducting unsuccessful offensive actions in the Avdiivka and Lyman directions. The enemy continues offensive attempts in the Bakhmut direction, increasing the intensity of airstrikes. In the rest of directions, Russian troops are holding the defense. Okay. In the past 24 hours, Ukraine's defense forces have repelled enemy attacks near the Luhansk region's Novoselivske and the Donetsk region's Terny, Serebryanske Forestry, Bluhorivka, Krasna Hora, Bakhmut, Pobieda. In the Volyn, Polisia, Siversky, and Slobozansky direction, no enemy offensive groupings were detected. Russian troops launched mortar and artillery strikes near the Chernihiv region's Brusky, the Sumy region's Sopich, and Kharkiv region's Veterinarne, and about 5 more settlements that I will refuse to break my tongue this morning. In the Kupiansk direction, the enemy shelling was recorded near the Kharkiv region's Sinkivka and 3 more settlements, and the Luhansk region's Novoselivske and Stelmakivka. In the Lyman direction, Russian invaders opened fire on the Luhansk region's Makivka, Ploshchanka, and 3 more settlements that I really did not hear about. That tells me that the Russians are in an offensive in Lyman. And how do I know that, or how do I assume that? Is because I do this almost every day, and I read an update on the front coming from Ukrinform, and every time new settlements come, that tells me that's new, obviously, locations where war occurs, and it's not the same. Sometimes they're the same settlements, the same regions, obviously, but there's new settlements. And how do I know that? I break my tongue, because after I read like 2 or 3 times, during the, let's say, three days in a row, I read articles with the updates. I usually read the same settlements names. Now, when the new settlements come, I have a hard time reading them, and I don't know why. I didn't know that Ukrainian, towns or names, for me at least, they're so, like that. I have no problem with Japanese. I have no problem with, French, German, Russian, or Belarusian, even Polish towns. I have no problem with any other Slavic. Obviously, Japanese is not Slavic or French or whatever, but in this context, I have no problem reading any other Slavic nations names, or at least here the settlements, the towns names. I don't know. I never knew. I'm just learning that. I probably have a little somewhere that don't in Ukrainian names of towns. So, in Kupian's direction, enemy shelling was recorded near the Kharkiv regions, Sinkivka, Petropavlivka, Tabaivka, and Krokhmalne, and the Luhansk regions, two more than I will not be reading. In the Lyman direction, the Russian invaders opened fire on Luhansk regions, Makivka, Plochanska, and as I said, the other three I never found. Serebryanske Foresty. That's new for me. In the Bakhmut direction, over 15 settlements came under enemy fire, including the Donetsk regions, and then we have Spime, Vimka, and New York, Druzhba, and Zaliznia, and three more that I did not read because I want to keep talking today. So in the Avdiivka direction, Russian troops shelled the Donetsk regions Avdiivka, it's big enough, Vodiane, Pervomaiske, and four more settlements. In the Novopavlivka direction, you see, Novopavlivka, I have no problem reading that because I read it like 3,000 times, but when something new like Russian invaders attacked the Donetsk regions, Bohoyavlenka and Mikilske. In Zaporozhye directions, the enemy launched artillery strikes on over 15 settlements, including the Zaporozhye regions, Vremivka, Malinvka, and about 7 more. In the Kherson direction, Russian occupiers again used a whole range of artillery pieces to attack such settlements as Kherson, Berohove, Yantame, Dniprovske, and Bilozerka. Over the past day, Ukrainian air forces have launched 14 strikes on the enemy cluster positions on three strikes on Russian air defense missile system positions. Ukraine's missile and artillery units hit 2 enemy personnel clusters. So not a major development over there that I can say, well, you see, that's a breakthrough in that and that. The Avdiivka, Lyman, Bakhmut, those areas is where the Russians continue their offensive, and I didn't hear anything about any Ukrainian offensive over there or counteroffensive. I think they just the Ukrainians are just gonna wait for the great help coming from their sponsors. Supposedly, a big batch of weaponry will arrive from the United States and obviously other countries that are involved in this war on the territory of Ukraine. And we'll see what's going to happen then. There are some articles over there talking about a Russian big offensive in February. Some Ukrainians says, yeah, it's going to be in February. Some Ukrainians say, no, it's not going to be. I think it's going to be either a big offensive or as it went so far, little by little by little. You destroy those guys, move forward. Destroy those guys, move forward. Destroy it, and this slowly advance. Or keep the front until you destroy all the weapons of the enemy. And the same thing works on the other side as well. So this is it, a little short summary of what's going on in Ukraine. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart. Look for the truth and be just.